Hello, everyone. My name is Johnny Tran, and this is Coach Danny Terrell, and we are here for the second session of his documentary of his life story. And today we're going to talk about what we left off from the last session. We spoke about his martial arts training in how he got his belts, and this time we're going to go in depth of how his training was with every single one of his teachers. So we're gonna start with Tuhon Bill first, since we're gonna have a Pekiti-Tirsia camp going on this weekend, April 1st till the third. Yeah. So it's gonna start tomorrow. So since we're all on that subject, I might as well just start with that one. With Pekiti. So how was the training with him? How tough was it?
Was it tough? Sometimes, yeah. We did lots of reps. Back in when I first started training with him, it was all long distance, and so it was seminar type training. We'd see him maybe twice a year, 3 times a year. He'd come into Dallas once or twice a year, and those were normally 12 hours one day, 8 hours the second.
Wow.
Yeah, that was the big part. Was we would do the 8-hour seminar, and if he was testing somebody, maybe an hour of testing, hour and a half of testing, and then we'd all go out to eat and have some camaraderie. Back into the gym, 9, 10 o'clock in the evening, and then train for another 4 hours.
Wow.
Most of the time. There were some times where we may have trained a little bit less than that, but that's where we put in lots more reps.
Mm-hmm.
And so after 8 hours of being inundated with information and being what he called PTBO, Pekiti-Tirsia burnout, where you can't absorb any more information.
Yeah, we go through that here.
We'd relax for a couple hours and get something to eat, get some brain food back into our bodies, and then go for another 4 hours of sometimes just reps. Sometimes he'd throw more information out, but most of the time those were just reps, just mentally burnt, physically burnt, and just doing the same reps over and over and over and over again.
Your hands were
Yeah, there were times couldn't hold the stick, but that's what got it in, was the reps when we were tired. I think it got it into the neural system.
Mm-hmm.
You're just so exhausted that you really can't absorb any more information, so you just rep it out.
Mm-hmm.
We may have taken 3 or 4 different techniques and just worked those for 4 hours, just over and over and over and over again. Right. So the brutality of it was, in doing the reps,
that was brutal.
your hands being wore out from gripping the stick and not being able to hold on anymore, and pry your fingers open, and just being exhausted and continuing to do the reps.
Yeah.
I think it was more brutal mentally because the amount of information that he would throw out.
Yeah.
And believe it or not, he's gotten worse as he's gotten older.
Really?
He throws even more information out at people.
Wow.
But you know, and it's funny, you think that when you go through that, and even today, like people doing camps, and he does so much information, you think, you walk away frustrated because I can't remember anything, but you really learn more than you think you do.
Mm-hmm.
And so I can understand that on a long-term aspect, that okay, he's throwing all this information out. You walk away thinking you haven't learned anything, yet you have learned far more than you think you have. It's just your ability to recall it right then and there it's just overload.
Right. The burnout.
But when you start training it and you go back home and you start working the material, it may be 6 months later, you come back and you, oh, where did that come from? Oh yeah, that's all the stuff we were covering, and then it begins to start coming out again. So
that's great.
You just got to work it. So that was the big thing with him, was the hours, the amount of information that he would throw. And
And plus, you didn't have a lot of time with him every day like other students.
no, yeah. So
that
it was
that was a good thing too.
so like training under Guru Dan in Osanto was all seminar stuff, but he would throw information at you, and you'd write a couple notes down. You'd do it 2 or 3 times, and he'd give you something else. But at least with Tuan Bill, you would spend 20, 30 minutes, maybe as much as a half hour, working that same information, and then he'd go on to something else or add on to it.
Yeah.
And he taught a lot of technique, but within the technique, he was teaching principles and how to use those principles in multiple situations, and then crossing over through different weapon categories. And almost a comparison between weapons. Now, a lot of times we weren't doing all of the work with different weapons, but he was talking about, or he would show, here's how you do it with a knife, here's how you do it empty hand. And then we would just continue working the same stick work maybe. Or if we were working empty hand, here it is with a knife, here it is with a stick.
Wow.
And we would continue working the empty hand stuff. So there was always a correlation between crossing over weapons categories.
That's great. That's great. That way you get to see the distance between each weapons also. You get the feel of it, and of course you got the students' heights,
Right.
All that too. So that's
And then,
great.
And then in time,
Reach, I mean, not height.
he started off doing working with pairs, and then he got to the point where we started working in groups of 3s. And so there was always someone that was watching and helping coach the other 2. Then you were actually one that was working. So you learn by watching, you learn by making judgments, you learn by helping others to see what their mistakes were, and then how did that person respond in that particular situation.
Wow.
And then it was your turn to get up there, and we were constantly moving back and forth. Sometimes we would do that for a round of a couple of minutes, and then your turn was in. Other times we were working as teams of bad guys, where you're a bad guy, I'm a bad guy, and we had a third person. You attack, and then I would attack, and he would have to break off and go to me, and then vice versa. You're in the middle.
Wow.
So you learn to make judgment calls on the fly,
Right.
using the material that we've been working and everything. So
That's
I like
trying to
doing
get that somewhat of a realistic flow in it. I guess we should want to.
Well,
not saying realistic, but
yeah, I think it's getting the brain to start thinking
there you
now.
go. Right.
How do I switch from going from one opponent to another opponent?
There you go.
And then in time, building up speed and building up power.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what it is that you're learning. Any martial art, any subject that you're learning, you need to work at learning speed. If you work really, really fast, then you miss half of what it is that you're supposed to be learning. So
It's like skimming through reading or something. Yeah.
right. So if we're doing a physical endeavor like what the martial arts is, then you should do it at the speed that you can do it properly as you retain that information. Because otherwise you miss half of what it is that you're supposed to be doing, and then you go, you don't have the technique right.
Yeah.
So if you can't do it slowly, you're not going to be able to do it fast.
Right.
If you can't do it slowly with no pressure, how in the world are you going to do it fast with a bunch of pressure?
Yeah.
So you got to build it up.
Right.
And so it was more along those lines,
Right.
but it was constant, constantly switching different people and stuff.
I like that.
And then
That's a good way of doing it.
I do that, and I do that a lot in my classes. I know you've been with it. We either did multiple opponents, or
All the time.
you always switching with
Always.
and training with somebody else.
Right.
Almost every time we make a break, you go with a different partner,
Right.
so that you're constantly working with different people, feeling different energies, feeling
Always.
different power and pressure. So
Right.
yeah,
That's one thing I've gotten a lot out of. It's like everybody's different.
absolutely.
Everybody's
Absolutely.
different.
So that was the big training with him, and then
Now, sorry. Go ahead.
going to his camps. I was always honored, and I don't know why, but he always invited me to his home with a few of the other people, especially
That's great.
even when I was relatively new in the system. When I started going to the camps, he always brought me in. So I got privy to some of the higher level material and understanding the workings of how the organization did on a executive level versus just being a member of PTI.
Is it because you're probably teaching it out here? Is that why? Or?
Yeah, I think looking back, yeah, probably because I was, once I became a director, Louisiana State Director, that put me in a different, higher level of whatever, you know.
Yeah. Whatever you want to call it.
but either way,
being a teacher was
either way, I was still, I felt honored that
Definitely.
he would bring me in, and so in his own home, and do training with him in his own home, and
because that's
nice.
when you get those other stuff that you don't see all the time from him.
Yeah, you get that personal end of stuff.
Right.
But he's a pretty hands-on sort of teacher.
Yeah, I noticed that too.
Or I've always felt he was. I mean, I always, every training session I ever did with him, I always got to feel him in some form or fashion. You would train with other people, and then he would come crashing down on top of you with the amount of power that he had. So it was different, yeah.
Now, how it came out with the testing? Was it full gear on, or is it different from back then?
Different. Well,
because I know back in the old days you didn't have all those equipment.
We did sparring back then,
Sparring.
and then I think just the cost of insurances and everything, it got to the point where it was prohibitive for him to.
Wow. And
he felt very strongly about the fact that everybody needed to be protected, because you can get hurt, you know.
Yes, definitely.
So,
so the sparring was a testing, basically.
And then I think he was having trouble getting the insurance in New York in order to be able to do the sparring for the testing. But we had, in the earlier days before that, throughout the 90s, we sparred. Fencing masks.
Okay.
When I first started sparring, I sparred. The only thing that they had was the big
hockey gloves.
No, it wasn't a hockey glove. It was a Kempo glove.
Kempo
I believe,
gloves.
yeah.
Oh wow, Kempo
big
gloves.
padded thing. Think about Bruce Lee and the gloves that he would wear.
Yeah.
So there were big pillows on the outside, and it was hard to grip them. And then
I was going to say, like, those things are hard to grip.
I got to the point where I just used a golf glove, a leather golf glove, and that was basically more to keep the skin from being tore up, or if you punched into the face mask, it was like hitting a cheese grater, you know, so you just tear your knuckles up. So
I was going to ask you.
There was no real protection as far as for being hit, you know.
Yeah, right. But I was going to ask you, like, whenever you guys did your sparring or whatever testing, not just, you know, with weapons also, or just Pekiti sticks?
Yeah, Pekiti sticks. The rattan sticks.
I was going to ask you, like, the actual weapon, but not like the actual weapon where it's sharp blade or anything, but it's an actual weapon.
No, we did mostly all rattan sticks. Had
rattan sticks, okay.
Karate type foam with cloth back forearm guards.
Okay.
If you wanted to wear them.
We never wore them in our classes when we sparred.
Some of the guys wore.
Not used to it. Would be.
Like a catcher shin guard for baseball.
Yeah.
Shin guard was a lot harder.
Yeah.
I never wore that. I guess from the Muay Thai, my shins were hard enough anyway. It didn't bother me. But
Tough guy, yeah.
Well,
just kidding.
No.
I'm just joking.
I mean, it still stings, you know.
Oh yeah, definitely. Been nailed by you a couple times in the knees.
And then,
it hurts.
These two knuckles get wrapped a whole lot, man. That stick slides down and hits your knuckles. So it's
a lot of but that's what that's how you temper. That's a tempering part.
Yeah.
Too.
So there was some sparring with the testing, but not a whole lot. Most of the testing was you had to know the material, and you had to demonstrate skill within the material.
Okay.
You had to show knowledge of, or depth of knowledge with the material. So we have student level testing, which is what are you doing and how are you doing it? I'm doing a number 1 strike, and this is how I'm doing a number 1 strike. And then there's CT testing, and then from there rank testing. And with that, you need to know more of when do you do it? Why do you do it? What happens if it doesn't work? What's the follow-up? And then
Yes.
cross different variables.
Yes.
You know, so
That's great.
which makes you a little bit more in depth.
Mm-hmm.
And then I did a little bit of testing, but it wasn't rank was not and never has been
Yeah, the last time it was
something that I was after. You know, so I really didn't do a whole lot of testing.
Okay.
I failed my first empty hand versus knife test because I didn't. I went in with the wrong attitude toward the test, and it was more like, okay, all right, are you ready? Yeah, I'm ready. Okay, we're gonna go through the manner of what it is that we're doing, knife tapping and stuff like
I
that.
didn't know you failed your first test on
Oh yeah.
This is
And
new information.
John Bill said, "Are you ready?" And I said, "Sure." And he stabbed me. And so then we kind of played for a little bit and everything, and he said, "Come back."
He stabbed
I said, "You're not ready." And I said, "So the next time are you ready?" "Yes, I am." And I backed away from him. And so the premise of knife tapping, the very first knife deal that we do is empty hand versus knife, is how to evade and then how to create distance. And of course, I went in with an attitude of, okay, I'm going to show him I can knife tap. Well, I didn't evade. I got stabbed. I didn't create distance. So you missed the whole premise of the first part of the test. So that was an important lesson.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
going into the test thinking that I'm going in for a test versus the test is, did you protect yourself?
And not just a test.
And so it was a mindset sort of thing. Yeah,
Yeah.
not just a test. Yeah, you're testing that, hey, you know that you're protecting yourself.
Right.
Evade, create distance. Okay, now you got that. Okay, now we'll go through what happens if he does this versus that or whatever.
Wow.
Yeah, so that was an instant eye opener for me, or a change mentally to go, okay, we're not playing. This
isn't just about testing. This is actual.
right.
Ink.
So you know,
Okay.
evade's done, create distance.
Right.
You know, assess and go from there.
That's really good though, because this is making you see that he's more than just a school. That's just a dojo that's trying to get money for.
Oh
a
yeah,
belt.
absolutely.
He's actually trying to teach you
He
something to protect you.
wants you to know that yeah, it's a combat art.
Right.
So if you die in the first part of it, well then you failed the test. You know.
He just
So-
failed the whole
and
thing.
I mean, I had gone to New York, and you know, of course, spent the money going up there, and spent 4 hours up there with him and everything. Did the test and came home and said, all right. So the next time I tested, I was like, okay, I'm ready. I'm ready.
And from then that point on, it was like.
From that point on, it was still.
I mean, like from that point on, you never like let yourself fail that kind of test again.
Yeah. But on the same note, I didn't do a lot of testing. I mean,
Right.
I CT'd in a couple of areas.
Right. Right. You didn't test a lot.
Because, you know, I felt that was important to have that sort of base foundation, the Yankan Lankan series, and then a couple of the other areas going up toward Gurisa. But I never made, you know, opposite disarmor. I think I tested through disarmor, and then I just continued to study and learn. Now I continued to teach, and I felt that I needed to have some testing and be CT'd to be legit as far as the organization goes. But having rank was never ever my goal.
Right. Right.
So it was a long time before I finished out, like I said last time, and said, get it tested out, get finished, and which I did. So okay, cool, I'm good.
That's good. I get a good, in depth of how it was for you.
The big thing was that he was the depth of knowledge
Yeah.
and the amount of information. That was
It's a lot of information in Pekiti.
yeah, yeah.
Oh man, but yeah, I was gonna ask you like any physical like training, like physical workout type of styles of Pekiti that they have their own, like how Wing Chun has theirs, with the workouts that they have. Is it different, or is it the same, or is it similar, or some
Well,
type of
back in, like I said, back in the early days when I was back in the '90s when I was training with
for Pekiti?
under Bill was the reps.
Okay.
You just put in a lot of reps. Now, there were some times that we did lots of reps on one thing, and then he came back and blew through all the other information. And so those things that he really expounded to do was the main premise of all the other information that he gave us that day. So it's like we didn't do lots and lots of reps on everything else, but those things that were really, really important. And and everything started off with footwork, and so you did an hour of warm up and footwork, or you did an hour of warm up and watiks, or reverse ones or reverse twos, and that was the warm ups, and then we would get into doing. Boy, should burn up your arms, so
That's true.
and your hands for your hand grip. If you can't hold on your weapon, then your weapon's no good to you. So, so there was a lot of that.
Wow. Okay.
And then, most of it because it was long term, a long distance love affair for me. I had to travel, or he had to be within, 8 hours of driving from him to get to him.
Yeah.
So like at times we go to Dallas, that was 7 hours away. So
That was the closest thing you can get to at that time back then.
yeah. So
Wow.
and just kind of went from there. I got to see Guru Dan.
Yeah.
And of course, when he found out that I was training in Pekiti as well,
Oh yeah, I was
there
gonna
was-
ask you about that.
he would, every time I would see him, he would always do something with Pekiti,
Okay.
or he would ask me, what is it that you're working on in Pekiti, and then he would do something that complemented that, which was pretty awesome.
During the
you know,
seminar?
During the seminar,
That is awesome.
yeah,
He's,
not
he's,
necessarily a lot of stuff.
he's not
but
going
he
against
would
what
do-
you're doing. He's actually
No,
working with you.
He would actually do something that complemented
Complements
what I
it.
was doing with
Yeah.
that. Or sometimes he would, call me out and say, what is it you're working on? Can you show that real quick? Okay, that's really, that was awesome. It was beautiful, beautiful. And then he would do something
Similar.
that sort of built off of that same thing. So that was
That's a
kind of
good
neat to be able to see the connection between what he was already doing. And
Yeah.
of course he trained with Leo, and he was,
Oh yeah, that's
under-
right. He did train with
he
you.
trained with Leo for a bit. And of course Leo did some training with him. They collaborated on a few things,
That's awesome. But I mean, as a personal thing, like he's a good teacher because he's not trying to say anything bad about it.
Oh,
he's
no,
not saying
he's a,
like, too hard, I wouldn't mess with that guy. He didn't do that. He just
only
he took
thing
off what you said and he went off with it.
the only thing he talks about Leo is that he's a character.
It looks like you've mentioned it a couple
He is
times.
a character. Oh yeah. So,
I don't know the guy, but yeah, that's awesome. That's great to know that
Yeah.
he took off of what you learned and went off and
yeah, and it wasn't always a lot, but
that's
one or two things or whatever,
great.
and then move on. So it was pretty neat.
great.
Yeah, it always made me feel good.
that's what I mean. Like, oh man,
And I don't know if he was doing it just for me, but he did it whenever I was there, so it made me feel really good. So yeah, it was cool. Yeah.
that's awesome. All
Yeah.
right. So, anything else with the Pekiti that we don't know about that the audience should know about?
Do your footwork.
Oh yeah, definitely. Now let's go on with the Wing Chun. How was that training like during the back then?
With relationship to whom?
Oh wow. Well, Sifu Francis Fong
Okay.
for you.
Um,
I mean, you learned from several teachers. That's
yeah,
right. That's
I
forgot.
actually had 3 different Wing Chun teachers.
Right. Well, if you want to, we can talk all 3 of them.
No, let's just stay with Sifu Fong.
Okay.
Because he's certainly by far the one that
You stuck
I've
with the
spent
longest. Yeah.
far more time with, and certainly influenced me far greater, because he was such a good teacher and skilled practitioner. So, and still is.
Yeah.
And again, with Sifu Fong, it was another. All of my training has been long distance because there was
Right.
nothing
Yeah.
here other than Shotokan. I was very, very blessed that he was more than willing to take me on as a student and opened his doors to me and was always just a tremendous mentor. His training was exhausting arm-wise. I mean, your arms got beat up. Wing Chun's all about trapping and trapping arms, and every time you just got your arm spanked, plain and simple. When you get pocked by that slap across your arms over and over,
That thing hurts.
over and over again, or he's cutting across your arms. So the tempering was tremendous, even though you don't do tempering, like some of the arts where you actually temper each other. You get tempered through the drills and through the training.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And then he'd burn your legs out with different types of leg exercises, standing on one leg with
Right.
the other leg out in front of you.
Definitely work your legs and your
Doing-
glutes.
Doing pistol squats.
Yeah.
The Seping Dama, getting in a low stance and having someone stand on your legs.
Yeah.
Those
Those are some brutal workouts.
are, they can be, but he always made it fun.
Right.
It was, he wasn't like and none of my instructors, other than some of the lower level instructors in other arts that I trained just to sort of experiment, none of them were ever like drill sergeant type instructors. They were just very giving, and if you wanted, then you did what they asked you to do, and yeah, you worked out hard, but that's also a choice.
Right.
And I think that's no matter what it is that you do, the more you put into it, the more you're going to get out of it. So,
Yeah. Now, with Sifu Francis Fong, who was his teacher?
Jiwei.
Jiwei. Okay. Not on the Liep Man lineage.
No, they were. My understanding, and most of it comes from Sifu Fong, is that they were Wing Chun brothers.
Okay.
Now, Yip Man had multiple instructors. Jiwei had an instructor. One of Yip Man's instructors was the same as Jiwei, and they became good friends in the school and training. And when Yip Man left and went to Hong Kong, Jiwei stayed in Foshan and actually became an instructor in the school that he was training at. I stayed there for a number of years, and when he finally left and went to Hong Kong, he connected with Yip Man again, and again they were good friends. So they collaborated some,
Right.
It wasn't like a student-teacher relationship, but more like friends. And what have you been doing? Oh, I've been doing this. Oh, that's pretty cool,
Yeah.
And so my understanding is he trained some with in Yip Man's school, and then opened up his own school.
In Hong Kong.
In Hong Kong, and was doing his own thing, and so there's some things that are very, very similar when I look at some of the Yip Man stuff and what I've gotten from Sifu Fong, and there's other things that are not as similar. Now, on the same note, I think that there's some things that Sifu Fong has, I don't want to say changed, but from his perspective, this is the way that it should be applied. And there's nothing wrong with that. Some people say, well, no, you're not pure anymore or whatever. Well,
Here we go with that debate.
I don't think anything is pure.
I know. Generations change.
Yeah, and you
Combat changes.
you may not find anything new that has not been in combat already in the physical aspect of the body, but you may discover it for yourself, whereas not someone else showed it to you.
Yeah.
And I think that we all go through that.
Yes.
And if you've been taught properly and you have the freedom to do it, you should be experimenting on your own.
Yes.
And self-discovery, I think, is a very, very important teaching tool.
That's what you taught us, me and everybody else that you trained with.
And
Self-discovery.
there may be things that you discover and you come in, oh, look what I found, you know, okay, this is this, and it's, you know, or it's like, boy, that was pretty awesome, yeah.
Well,
I wouldn't apply it that way, but if it works for you, then that's fine, that's great, there's nothing wrong with that. And so there was a lot of that with I think with him and the way that he teaches now. And of course, he's got other things.
Yeah, he has other martial arts too. Like
yeah,
you said.
He started off in Taekwondo, and then he did some judo.
Yeah.
And so when you bring other perspectives to the table, you're going to see things from a different lens. And I don't care how much you filter that out or try to and put it aside, you can learn this. But if this is in you, it's going to filter itself back in, you know, or creep in some form or fashion. You know, it's like my Pekiti empty hands, or the kickboxing part of Pekiti-Tirsia, with the Muay Thai background that I have and the boxing background. There's lots of things that seep in. And it's not to say that I'm taking that away from Pekiti by any means, no, but it's still there. And if it's viable, now I always say this came from Muay Thai or whatever.
Yeah, at least you're honest to tell them where it came from. Not say that it came from you.
Yeah.
From you only.
I think it. I
give the respect back to where it came from.
So I think there was some of that with Sifu Fong's Wing Chun.
Okay.
And so there are people out there that say, well, he doesn't do just Wing Chun now, you know. I said, well, yeah, he does. Everything he does is filtered through a Wing Chun lens. Just how is he applying his Wing Chun? And Wing Chun itself is designed for a particular range of fighting.
Right. That's what I was going to ask you next.
And I'm going to say, you know, better than 90% of it is designed for this particular range. Well, one, you got to get there. Two, what happens if you get beyond that range, closer than that range?
Yeah, like a wrestling range.
So you still have to use the same, you're still using your body. So how do I apply what I know from all the forms and what I've done through all the drills in that particular aspect? And other people say, well, no, you don't do that. Well, maybe you don't, but you still got to survive. So how do you apply what you have? And that's going to be based upon the individual. You know.
Now, whenever you did your training with Sifu Francis Fong, was it private also, or?
Yeah, I did some privates with him, and those were embarrassingly humbling.
Really?
Embarrassingly humbling, yes.
Awesome. At least you admit to it.
Well, yeah. You know, I think we all have some ego. You know.
Yes.
And that's what. Now, too much ego can be bad. Not enough ego stops you from doing anything. So you have some that says, "Man, I want to be better. I'm better than that. I can do." You know. Yeah. And you go in and you think, "Well, okay, I'm pretty good and everything," and you go, "Ooh, ooh." You know.
Tell me about the sessions with the wine going on. Tell me about that.
Oh yeah.
Tell us about that one.
Yeah, I mean, the first time that I ever cheese out with him, that say that, oh, okay, I got to cheese out with Sifu Fong. I mean, there was always times touching, you know, during class or whatever, and he would try to touch everybody, but it was dinner private at my home, and so we're in the den, and he says, "Okay, Dan, you ready?" And I said, "Sure, boy." And he tosses me around like a rag doll, and I'm like, I'm in awe, one, because of his skill and how effortlessly he was doing it, and I'm embarrassed too in how horrible I am. You know, with other people on my level, hey, I was pretty good. You know, with someone on his level, and he says, "Relax, Dan, relax." And I said, "Okay." So we played around again, and he tosses me around like a rag doll, and he says, "Dan, you have some wine?" I said, "Sure." So we got some wine. I said, "Okay, let's drink some wine." Sat down, drank a glass of wine, and everything. He said, "Okay, let's cheese out." So okay, cheese out. So, oh, you're a little bit more relaxed, and let's have some more wine. So we ended up sitting there drinking the whole bottle of wine and cheese out.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, yeah. That was
Got you so relaxed.
that was my first real feel of a master at C.I.A. And it was, like I said, I was embarrassed.
Now, like how you were mentioning from the last interview, you were saying like how the energy was with Funikoshi and with Bruce Lee. Was his energy something like that?
I don't know because I never touched him.
Oh yeah, that's right. You didn't touch him. The other guy did.
This was a story. This was a story that was told by another guy. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry about
Taylor
that.
Atkins. But so I couldn't tell you that. I don't know what it was, but that was his story.
But when you do touch Sifu Francis Fong and you touch other teachers, is it similar?
I have yet to touch anybody that was on Sifu Fong's level.
Wow.
I've yet to touch him. Now, on the same note, the energy from someone like Chun to the energy of Sifu Fong is two different energies.
Right. Yeah.
Two totally different
a little bit of a bigger guy too.
Chun is just raw power.
Yeah.
But he's just as smooth.
Right.
But he's also using his body a little bit differently than what Sifu Fong's is.
Okay.
Sifu Fong is like when he touches you, he's attached to the ground.
That's something that's different. You see what I mean? Like I don't hear that. You know?
And when he cuts your line, it's like a steel rod cutting through your arm.
Oh my gosh!
And then he's gone. There's nothing there. You know he's there. Don't get me wrong. He's there. Like his arm is there, but you don't feel the pressure from it. Or he has total control of you.
That's what I was going to say. He probably has total control over you.
No matter which direction you try to go or do or whatever, he's got total control of you.
Yeah.
So that was something that I had never ever felt or experienced before. To have someone have that much complete control over me and tossing me around and moving me in any direction he wanted it will.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it was.
Well, I mean, I've had a chance with touching with him, but he didn't put like anything like that. It's like a drill that he just do.
Yeah.
You know? But you can feel it. But you can feel it though. For that moment.
Yeah, I had been through that many times with it, but the first time I cheesed out.
Yeah, I haven't touched that like that. Like I've done it with you, and I'm like, ooh.
And then, well, if you feel that from me, that's because of him, not because of me. That's just I have learned that through him.
Right. It's filtered through you.
Yes, by all means.
That's what I feel when I touch with you, and then when I touch with students or other partners, it's like, they're a little bit different energy.
And then, of course, we do some, but most of it was drilling, you know. And so it wasn't just sitting there just doing the roll. So okay, we do the roll. Yeah, we learned that. Right. But then once we learned it, we're not doing that. It's more along the lines of, for me, why are we rolling? What causes the roll?
Right.
You know, some people get up there and they just roll, and then someone attacks. No, it's actually a constant attack and counter.
Right.
Constantly attack and counter. So you learn the roll for the sake of the roll.
But that's not fighting.
Right. And in C.I.A. it's not fighting either. It's a drill, but it's still, I'm punching you. And so the punch causes you to go to bomb. As I start to retract, you open me up and you want to attack me. If my position isn't correct, then you get to attack me.
Yeah.
If my position is correct, it actually stops you from attacking me. And that's the thing that I got from him, was that we don't roll for the sake of rolling. It's a constant attack, counter, attack, counter.
Right. That's the reason why I like about the Wing Chun, that from what I've seen from other Wing Chuns that I've got to train with, that we actually do pad work. We actually do the drills within it that are similar to like a boxer almost.
Right. You're doing punching and striking and kicking and kneeing and elbowing. Yeah.
It's not just a rolling and cheese
and doing takedowns and dumping them on the ground and it's a fighting art.
Right. It's amazing. It's amazing
the biggest thing that I think that, and it's just him in his perspective, is that they don't do sparring. Now they do a lot of hands-on drilling and pressure testing it through the drilling and everything.
Right.
But as far as just actually getting out and sparring, we will put gloves on and we'll do the drills. But while we're doing the drills, I'm trying to hit you. You should shut me down. But to just get out and flat spar, they don't do much of that.
Okay, but we do it here.
we do it here, but that's just him. But on the same note, his people,
right, they're good.
Can do it.
They're
They can do it. So they do enough of the drilling with pressure that
Yeah.
they can apply it. One of the things that's unique about, I think is unique anyway, about Sifu Fong is that if you want to be a high-level instructor under him, you have to be high-level trained in 2 other arts, and that's highly, highly unusual.
Mm-hmm.
But and it's not so much that he wants you to train in other arts. I mean, he does, but he wants you to do it so that you understand how you apply your Wing Chun against those other arts.
Right, and not just Wing Chun against Wing
Not
Chun.
just Wing Chun against Wing Chun.
Which is a lot of issues going on right
he
now.
He wants you to, can you actually apply your Wing Chun against someone who's a Muay Thai fighter who's actually trying to punch and kick you?
Mm-hmm.
Can you apply your Wing Chun against a grappler?
Mm-hmm.
How do you, and in order to do that, you have to get down on the ground. And so he wants you to understand the other game, not to be that other player,
Yeah,
but so that you can beat them.
yeah,
And when you train other people, to have the perspective of how do you train them to beat those people versus just playing Wing Chun against Wing Chun.
yeah.
And I deeply appreciate that.
Yeah, yeah. It's like he looks at it from a different lens from what other. I'm not gonna say every Wing Chun teacher because I know there's other Wing Chun teachers that thinks like that too, but there's also the other ones that just don't think like that. They just think it's just Wing Chun only. It's the only art you should learn. But then there's many other teachers too.
Yeah, and that's okay
Other
too.
arts.
But
Which is not the greatest thing to think like that.
to really know and understand your art, you have to be able to do it outside of the confines of what your basic training is.
Right.
Experience it through other lenses.
Going
yeah.
back to Pekiti, like you were saying, like during the old days, the teachers of Leo Gahe, I think he was saying something about the stories.
Yeah,
of him
they
going to
went out,
different.
right. They went out to different villages and got with different groups and trained with them and then brought it home. And
Right.
they went through their own testing against each other and said, yeah, this is good. We're going to keep it. That sucks. We're going to throw it out.
See,
Yeah.
it was already happening in the old days, and not even
I
now.
think there was a lot more of that was happening anyway.
Right.
You know, even the karate masters, and when they were over here saying, "Well, you only train with me," or
Yeah.
most of those guys had more than one instructor. They trained with multiple people.
Yeah.
You know why? Because not everybody has the answer. You know, that's why I pushed you guys, and I've always done it with all my students. If there's another interest out there that you have, go.
Yeah.
You know, and don't train with just me. Go train with other people and see what they have as well. And
I've done
if
it.
they have something that is better than what I've given you, incorporate it in what you have.
Yep.
Don't, yeah, you know.
Yep.
There's the whole thing, you know, the JKD community is about absorb what is useful and discard what the rest, you know. And it's like, but if you discard something that you don't know or understand, then you're discarding something that could be really, really good.
Right. They just didn't understand at that.
You know,
Like you mentioned before, like there are certain things in Wing Chun that you didn't catch until you started doing something else.
Oh, absolutely.
That's what you
And
mentioned in the last interview, I think.
I think I've had that with everything that I've trained in.
Right.
I'm not ready for that understanding yet. So
I remember you used to say you used to you should compartmentalize it, then
Yeah,
you would
don't-
come back to it.
yeah, don't compartmentalize the information, and that's what a lot of people do is they take this information and go, okay, it only is applied here, and they put it in that box, and they set it up on the shelf, and then they go on and learn other stuff, and they take that and put it in a box, where they never see how those two pieces correlate and they interrelate to each other.
Yeah.
And
I remember you used to say
like,
that a lot.
it's use it all.
Yeah.
You know?
Some stuff you use and it'll come right back to you. Like, holy heck, I think it works.
Yeah.
You know.
I mean, we're human beings, and the human body, the physics of the human body, is pretty much the same no matter where you are, no matter what language you speak, no matter what your nationality is. You know, if I'm in southern China and someone does that to my wrist, it hurts. If we're here in South Louisiana, someone does it hurts.
Right.
I don't care what you call it or how you learned it. It's still the same.
Right.
You know, so how do you tie those together?
Yeah. That's good. Good to know those type of stuff.
Yeah.
Because some people don't think like that.
The big thing with Sifu
Some
Fong
folks.
was he was another very, very positive person. And his attitude was, I'm nothing special. I'm no one special. I'm just Francis Fong. And this is what I have, and I want you to have it as well.
Yeah.
And pretty cool.
Yeah.
You know.
I mean, I've seen his videos of him doing his forms, and I've seen, you know, the ones we've done in school with him, and when we went to go seminars, they're sometimes a little bit different.
So yeah,
that's one thing I respect about him. Like he
changes things, and
Yeah.
depending on what he's emphasizing at a time, sometimes he will make a slight tweak or change of the form to get you to be able to do that well, and then he goes back to the way that the form was before.
Yeah.
Or
Interesting.
another thing he does is he makes changes in the forms, in the drills. And when you come in, and if it's been 2 or 3 years that you've ever trained with him, you don't know about the changes, and he goes, why are you different? We changed that 2 years ago. Why are you different? You haven't been coming and training with me.
Oh, that's a good thing. That's good to get him.
So what I do when I haven't seen him for a little bit is I always wait and watch what everybody else is doing. Say, okay, but and usually the changes are small. They're nothing big.
Yeah.
It's still within the same premise of what that particular move is being done. But you know, instead of doing this, he will do this. You know, but it's still the same motion or whatever. He'll make some little small changes, or some of the drills that we've been doing. You know, we'll go 3, 4, 5 years working this particular drill, and he'll change one little piece of it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's and so then you turn on, you watch him do the form. You say, well, that's not what we've been working on.
I've been through that. I was like, wait, I'll ask you about it, and